All right, class. Today we are through with the Middle Ages. We finished with the Middle Ages with Alfred the Great, although Alfred was like way back on the timeline. I just wanted to do it. But anyway, we are going. The next thing on our timeline was the Renaissance. Right after the Middle Ages, the Renaissance started, and the Renaissance was a time of culture, of learning, of science, of inventions, of painting, of art. So all these things were rolled into one in the Renaissance, and there was lots of painters during the time, lots of inventors. You had Leonardo da Vinci, you had Michelangelo, you had Raphael, Donatello. All these were during the Renaissance, and no, they weren't the Ninja Turtles. No, they were not the Ninja Turtles. They were the Ninja Turtles' names were based off these guys from the Renaissance era. So that is what we are talking about today, or at least introducing you to it. And like I said, it was right after the Middle Ages when the Renaissance began. If you look on our timeline, you had the Dark Ages. All right, went from 500 to 1000 AD. All right, and then around 1500, 14 to 1500 AD, the Renaissance started. So let me let this play, and we'll see what it says.
The Renaissance on our timeline was after the Dark Ages and Middle Ages. It was a time period where culture, education, art, and science returned to people's lives.
All right, so it was coming out of the dark. It began with the fall of the Roman Empire. The Middle Ages did in 476 AD, and a lot of the information in science, art, government, they had lost it. All right, it was all lost during this time. That because when the Roman Empire fell, a lot of it burned, a lot of it just got lost in the shuffle. All right, so the first half of the Middle Ages is actually called the Dark Ages because it was so much information that was lost.
Coming out of the dark, the Middle Ages began with the fall of the Roman Empire. A lot of information in science, art, and government that had been made by the Greeks and Romans were lost during this time. The first half of the Middle Ages is actually called the Dark Ages because so much information was lost.
All right. So the Renaissance began after the Middle Ages. Like I said on our timeline, it started with the Dark Ages, then the Middle Ages, and then went back down. And it was the Renaissance around 1500 AD. So it was a time of coming out of the dark, and it was a time of education, science, art, literature, music, and a better life for people in general. Because in the Dark Ages, like I said, there was a lot of stuff going on. There's a reason it was called the Dark Ages, not just because all the information was lost, because people were very poor at this time. They didn't have government. They didn't have structure. They didn't have a lot of things going on at that time. And the Renaissance was a coming of age. It was a way for people to branch out, all right, and better themselves.
Renaissance continued. The Renaissance began after the Middle Ages. It was a time of coming out of the dark. It was a time of education, science, art, literature, music, and a better life for people in general.
All right, so the cultural movement. It was a cultural movement. Big part of the Renaissance was the cultural movement. It was called humanism. And humanism was the idea that people should be educated and learn the classical arts, literature, and science. So education, there was a big emphasis on education during the Renaissance, all right? And it was also okay for people to pursue comfort, riches, and beauty during this time. And you'll see a lot of that with art and with some of the things that went on during the Renaissance. You'll see some of these things with comfort, riches, and beauty as well.
Cultural movement. A big part of the Renaissance was a cultural movement called humanism. Humanism was an idea that all people should be educated and learn the classical arts, literature, and science. Humanism also said that it was okay for people to pursue comfort, riches, and beauty.
All right. All right, and the Renaissance began in Italy, Florence, Italy to be exact, and it spread to other city-states in Italy. Italy, if you see Italy's the country that's shaped like a boot. If you look at it right here, it's shaped like a boot. It's because of the history of Rome and the Roman Empire. And another reason it began in Italy, because Italy had a lot of white. They had a lot of money, and the rich were willing to spend their money supporting artists, and different geniuses such as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. You know, they were willing to spend that money on them because they had lots of money.
It began in Italy. The Renaissance started in Florence, Italy, and spread to other city-states in Italy. Part of the reason it began in Italy was because of the history of Rome and the Roman Empire. Another reason it began in Italy was because Italy had a lot of money and the rich were willing to spend their money supporting artists and geniuses.
All right. So we had this thing called the Renaissance man. The term Renaissance man refers to a person that's an expert and talented in many areas. Right here you have Leonardo da Vinci. All right. He was a master painter. Okay. He painted the Mona Lisa. All right. That's one of the things he's famous for. All right. He was a sculptor. He was a scientist. He invented things. All right. He drew one of the first models of an airplane. All right. And he's also an engineer and he's a writer. And then you have Michelangelo down here. All right. He was a painter. He was a sculptor. He was an architect. And they were considered Renaissance men because they were experts in many different areas.
The Renaissance man. The term Renaissance man refers to a person that is an expert and talented in many areas. The true geniuses of the Renaissance were great examples of Leonardo da Vinci, was a master painter, sculptor, scientist, inventor, architect, engineer, and writer. Michelangelo was also a superb painter, sculptor, and architect.
All right, so we got our comprehension questions here. The Renaissance began what blank the Middle Ages? Before the Middle Ages, in the middle of the Middle Ages, or after the Middle Ages? When did the Renaissance begin? It began after the Middle Ages. You had the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, and then down here you had the Renaissance that began in about 14 to 1500 AD.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right. Humanism was an idea that all people should do what? A, get turned into frogs, B, party, or C, be educated in the classical arts, literature, and science. Well, we don't want nobody to get turned into frogs. We don't want everybody to just party all the time. No, the Renaissance was about education. It was about the arts. It was about literature. It was about science.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right. Where did the Renaissance begin? What country did it begin in? Was it A, Italy, B, North Carolina, or C, on the moon? It was A, Italy. It began in Italy. The country is shaped like a boot. That's where Rome was at once upon a time. And the reason it began in Italy because the people of Italy, most of them had lots of what? Of money. Yeah, so they were willing to support the artists and the geniuses and the people that were doing all this stuff for the culture.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right. And our last one, who are examples of Renaissance men? Was it A, the Ninja Turtles? Was it B, Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo? Or was it C, Mr. Sean? Well, Mr. Sean, I like to think of myself as a Renaissance man, but I don't know if I'm an expert in everything. So I would have to say that's Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. And we'll see right here.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
The Ninja Turtles were named after these guys. You had Leonardo here. He's named after him. You had Michelangelo. He's named after him. And you had Raphael. He was also a Renaissance man during the Renaissance era. And Donatello was too. So all these are examples of Renaissance men, not the Ninja Turtles, but Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. All right, class. We're going to have more. This was just an intro to the Renaissance. We're going to talk about all kinds of things in the Renaissance. We're going to talk about Leonardo da Vinci more. We're going to talk about Michelangelo. We're going to talk about lots of different things. This was just kind of an intro to it. And I hope you enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you later.